crash landed. 2 confirmed survivors. Son, this is not training.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Lobby, a Real Lovers podcast. And we are continuing our M. Night Shyamalan retrospective this week with M. Night Shyamalan. Well, should we call it M. Night Shyamalan's After Earth? Because it's technically like his movie, but Will Smith and Jaden Smith and the Smiths all produced it. But we're talking about After Earth, released in 2013. And joining me, my partner in crime, my co-host on this retrospective, Peyton from the Apple Box Chronicles. How you doing today, Peyton?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be talking about this movie that only you and me like. And I mean, that's not true, obviously, but in the grand scheme of things, it's great to have. This might be one of the first podcasts ever about this movie that has 100% of people enjoyed it on the episode.
I think I'm a little bit like indifferent with this movie. I think on this rewatch that we're doing for this episode, I liked it a little bit more, but like when this movie first came out,
I got the impression that you actually like enjoyed it. Maybe actually I'm wrong. Maybe it's only 50%.
Well, no, people. We'll get into it.
I'm gonna have to pill you on this.
I don't think it's the atrocity that was Last Airbender.
No, and it's also just it's not what it. People are too hard on it.
Yeah, I think everyone was obviously still coming off the stink of Last Airbender, which I always think is very unfair. Like when a filmmaker makes like a bad movie, or what people like to call a bad movie, and then they make something else, and they're like, "Oh, I'll never forgive him for that." And we kind of talked about that in the Last Airbender.
Everybody
episode.
has flops, and also it's not always entirely on the filmmaker.
Yeah, exactly. But like I said, we're talking about After Earth. This movie came out in 2013, and it stars Jaden Smith and Will Smith as well. A lot of the things that I was researching about this movie, people were like calling it like the Nepo baby movie, which is
they have no idea what's coming.
They have no idea. Well, one with the posters that I see in your background, Trap. Watching this movie now with Trap, since we've already seen Trap multiple times, I can definitely see like a parallel there. Like M. Night Shyamalan probably wouldn't have made Trap if he didn't make this movie. And
maybe not.
Yeah. But this movie, like I said, stars Will Smith and Jaden Smith. I'm just going to read the synopsis here from IMDb. A crash landing leaves Katai Rage, which the best movie name ever. Katai Rage. Like that's like
I love it.
His action movie. Like
I love it.
I love it. And his father Cypher, stranded on Earth a millennium after events forced humanity's escape. With Cypher injured, Katai must embark on a perilous journey to signal for help. This movie was written by Gary Whitta, which are you familiar with his work? I'm sure you are, Peyton. So
I feel like I've looked into it before in regards to this movie, but I don't really remember.
We can kind of jump a little bit into like how this movie kind of got off the ground a little bit, because I kind of was like a little bit on the ground floor about like the early production with this movie, just because Gary Whitta was like a co-host on the Tested podcast, and he was talking about like writing like this science fiction movie with M. Night Shyamalan. Well, it started out like because he was the original writer of it, and then M. Night Shyamalan came in to help, which is another conversation that we could probably have about. This is M. Night Shyamalan coming into a production after it's already kind of gotten off the ground, and that's something that he's not particularly used to. Like he's used to kind of like starting off from the ground running, which in the last episode you were talking about how it has learned multiple times, like with Last Airbender, like he doesn't like he tried it and this isn't for him. So it's like he's trying something else about coming into a production that he's kind of out of the element for, but working around other people. You see what I'm saying?
He's more in his element with this one because it's a family story, but I think, well, one, the story credit is Will Smith. It's his only story credit on anything, and he makes... Yeah, so he came up with the basic idea. M. Night and Gary Whitta wrote it, and then M. Night directed it. So A lot of people say M. Night Shyamalan, he just needs a co-writer, he needs a collaborator to like hold him back and you know, make his dialogue more natural and all that stuff. I'm like, I actually think I don't agree with that. I think he just is more interested in being fully himself and having a bunch of people hate his movies than he is trying to kind of, I guess, to dilute his style or anything like that. He's like, for better or worse, I'm just me. And I think that's probably what I think that's what a lot of artists should do. Obviously, you can improve in your craft and everything, but I feel like being successful as an artist is like, I mean, I guess I don't want to make it sound like you should be self-absorbed, but it feels like if you're making the work that like fulfills you and that makes you feel good and like, and that is like, I guess, healing for you, then I don't see how that is a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like, to add on to that, like, especially is I feel like some of like the better moments of After Earth is probably, I don't know this for sure, but probably the parts that probably wrote, like all the stuff.
Oh yeah, I feel like that's definitely true because it is those intimate like family moments that he shines at. And I think this movie, it's like a blockbuster, so it feels a little too big for him in scale. And the reliance that it has to have on CGI to be this like sci-fi movie, it's not really his wheelhouse in those ways, but I think it has something underneath it, and it's the reason I like it, that it has this like very pretty like honest and I guess sincere message about fear and about fatherhood and masculinity in a lot of ways that I think is very interesting. It's just, it's kind of muddled by a lot of the aesthetics that don't really work, in my opinion.
Yeah. And Gary Whitta definitely kind of relies on like aesthetics throughout most of his films, like Book of Eli. Like that's a movie that's very aesthetic focused, and I don't want to spoil the ending of that movie, but kind of has a little bit of an M. Night twist like toward the end. So it's actually a really interesting collaboration that happened during this movie. But you mentioned that like obviously this movie is science fiction. It takes place like 1,000 years in the future, where Earth is like uninhabitable and the humans escape to Nova Prime. And that wasn't originally the idea for this movie, because Will Smith actually got like an idea for this movie after watching, hold on, let me just look that up. He was watching a television show called I Shouldn't Be Alive, and it kind of focuses on like a father and son dynamic about them being stranded somewhere. But Will Smith was like, oh, we should make it science fiction, which like when he comes up with that idea, everyone's like, well, that's going to shoot our budget up like 10 times that because of the visual effects and all the set design as well, which watching the behind the scenes of this movie on a rewatch, I was surprised like how much they actually built, like all the sets and like alien creatures. They actually built that for real. Like there's a lot of visual effects, but I was honestly surprised how much was actually real, and I feel like a lot of the visual effects hold up too.
I really just don't like the design of the structures in the first like 20 minutes. The Nova Prime segment I find kind of really rough. Like I don't really like, I don't feel it flows. The narration at the very beginning, you know, there was an original idea for this movie. I don't know if you know this, where instead of narration, the little exam that Katai fails to become a ranger at the beginning of the film, they were going to have a verbal exam be like the final test where he has to answer a bunch of questions about Nova Prime and like the history of his people. And that was going to be the exposition to catch you up to how everything works. And I feel like that could have been way better than narrating and showing all of this archive footage. I mean, the archive footage is not really the problem. It's just, I don't know, you start and it immediately kind of alienates you. It's like, I've heard stories of Earth. And like the way he says that, I'm sorry, Jaden's just not, he's not my favorite in this, really. He's and I don't know, I think it's a lot of different things about the acting in this movie, because it's not really the dialogue or the performance itself so much as it's those freaking accents. Like the accents, they're trying to make the humans sound like they kind of like come from a completely different place that nobody in the audience would have seen. But I really don't like the way that they made the accents sound. It felt like they were just doing it to have them sound different, and it just makes them sound, it just makes it harder to buy into the emotions sometimes. But there are times where it really does work. It's just early in the movie, I feel like it's just a barrage of like the CGI, you know, the aesthetics just not being my cup of tea. The dialogue is kind of rough. The exposition, the catch up, doesn't really work. And I don't know. I don't find myself as absorbed in it until literally this movie should be called After Earth, because after they get to Earth, I'm chilling. It's a great movie after that, I think.
No, I totally agree. Just because I will agree that the beginning of this part is very rough, and I remember watching this like for the first time, and I was like, "Oh boy, Jaden Smith, what are you doing here?" Like, because I was a big fan of Jaden Smith at the time, because I really loved that Karate Kid, the kid movie, and I want him to succeed. And I have my opinions on Will Smith because I'm not really like 100% in his camp all that much, but I'm always wanting the success of like a big celebrity like Will Smith's kids to have the same success that he has.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, when this movie starts, I was kind of like, ugh, like it's like I'm a little bit worried. But after once you get like on like the ship, and you're getting the interactions between Cypher and Cage, and the whole like shipwreck as well. Like that feels that like when the ship actually goes down and crashes, the shot where it just stays on Cage, and you see I don't know how Will Smith's character even survives something like that, to be honest, because he like gets sucked out of the ship, and he's not completely fine because he's got like a
when you say
leg,
Cage, are you referring to Katai?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
Katai
I couldn't
Cage.
understand. I didn't know if you Katai Rage. I think you were blending the name. I couldn't remember if there was like some other character that was like, because there was a lot of people on that ship. No, it's good.
Yeah,
I
was
just want to make
blending
sure
the
I
names.
knew what was up.
Maybe I just wanted it to be Katai Cage.
Nicolas Cage should have played Katai. I think that would make it a better movie.
I think it would. Or what if Nicolas Cage was Will Smith's? And
I don't know.
I don't think it would work.
I actually think Will Smith is incredible in this movie. I'm not even gonna front. I think playing him against the charismatic roles that he's usually in is very interesting, and I think he does a really good job at like showing him and suppressing his emotions at every second, and how he really, for up until this point in his life, I think he's had the luxury and the status to be like, okay, I don't really have to like worry. You know, I can bury. Well, obviously there was that tragedy with the sister character that's like buried below him, below the surface of him, and that's what's dividing the father and the son. But like, he's not in a position where he has to like, I guess, worry about Katai in terms of his safety. So he kind of, you know, treats him like a soldier basically. Yeah. And then when he kind of is in this situation where he has to finally depend on his son instead of the other way around, I just think it really shows how, no, he actually does get afraid, and he can feel fear. It's just now he's in a situation where he is having to fear for, will my son actually make it out of this? And so you can see him, it's not like overtly stated, but you can see him kind of getting challenged by the situation to actually buy into the emotion that he's been denying the whole time. Like when Katai jumps off that cliff and he's like, you know, finally not following an order that he was given, it really scares him, I think, because it's like the first time that something hasn't been he can't predict what's going to happen, or he doesn't feel comfortable predicting what's going to happen, and so fear comes back into play. And I think that's true. Like, I think he just genuinely can feel fear in it. And I think this movie captures the duality of fear where, you know, you fear, when you say fear is a choice, it is, but you choose to fear for your loved ones because you love them. And then you also choose to have courage instead for your loved ones to protect them. So it's like both of those things I think are mirrored in both characters.
Yeah, for sure. And like I hopefully I won't be repeating myself during that, but everything that you just described kind of feels like it's like that's M. Night Shyamalan like to a
Yes.
key. And like I couldn't help but, especially on this rewatch, I couldn't help but compare him and his daughters to Will and Jaden Smith's character like in the movie, and even Will Smith and Jaden as well, like in real life. Like because go ahead, sorry.
Actually disagree. What's more, I mean, you could definitely draw that comparison, but I think what's more interesting is the fact that I think M. Night and his daughters feel a little bit more like Will Smith and the Zoe Kravitz character. The way that it shows that like he didn't spend a lot of time with her like in person. He's always on missions, he's always doing stuff, and he's like FaceTiming her essentially in like every flashback. And it's like all these things he's feeling guilt for not being there, but then also, you know, just being so wrapped up in his own stoicism that, you know, he didn't even, I guess, engage with these moments with his kids. And they're really, really trying to get him to show a little bit of emotion. He just won't do it because he feels that he needs to be completely fearless.
Yeah. And I totally agree. I totally agree with that. Like, but there's, I see like elements of that, and also elements between
for sure. I don't think it's one or the other.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we kind of dived a little bit into in the movie, but I'll finish up this like how this movie even got started. Like I left off of the whole Will watching like that TV show and kind of being inspired by that, and then wanting to make it like science fiction. So that immediately kicks it off. So he asks Gary Whitta, he brings up the idea to Gary Whitta and has him write like the screenplay for it. And then he contacts like M. Night in that situation because Will Smith has always wanted to work with M. Night Shyamalan, which we've mentioned before that M. Night has always been kind of like this hot name too. So it's very interesting that Will Smith he didn't take The Last Airbender like failure at all, like to like he would still want to work with them even though
I think
Last
if you're in
Airbender
the
didn't
industry, I think you'd see that from a different perspective. You wouldn't be like, oh, you made this bad movie, you suck now. Like, I just don't think that's how he would think about it.
It's not, they're not, people in the industry aren't fans. So
I think they are. I just think they're like they don't treat movies the same as fans do, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. But
Okay.
but yeah, when I found that out, I started wondering like what type of movie I would want to see, what other movies I would like to see Will Smith injected into, like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, like
Nah.
or just what other projects I would like to see them work on together. Because I think, like you said, I think Will Smith is very strong, like in this movie.
He's certainly very talented.
But yeah, kind of. So, like I mentioned, M. Night comes on pretty late into this production. Like Gary Wood has already wrote the script, so M. Night kind of tweaks it a little bit and adds like the father and son like dynamic. And I don't know, I just think it's interesting. This is like an interesting part in M. Night Shyamalan's career where I mentioned it like earlier, where he's basically coming on to something like already started. And I think that actually takes a lot of courage too as a filmmaker as well. Like M. Night up until this point has always been kind of like the face of everything, like The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, even Last Airbender to an extent, just because he was the one that kind of got it off the ground. So it takes great responsibility as a filmmaker and kind of throwing your ego out the door and just kind of get something pushed along to the finish line. But yeah, but I don't know. I just think I have so much respect for Shyamalan here, just because a lot of studios probably weren't even knocking on the door like after Last Airbender. Like he kind of had to quote unquote go into director's jail. That's what a lot of people are saying about this movie, and kind of like hide in the background and just continue to work on his craft.
Yeah,
but...
it was trying to use the Will and Jaden Smith star power and not the M. Night name, and then and of course that leads to a bunch of people being like, oh, this movie's so bad. Oh, it's obviously because M. Night directed it. Oh, I see. And I'm like, well, it's because these don't, people I'm talking about, they don't like The Village or Lady in the Water or The Happening either. So for them, it's been a while since he's made a good movie.
Yeah.
But for me, I really just think it's this and Last Airbender are they're weaker than his other films. But I really think other than that, besides I guess his two really, really early ones before Sixth Sense, I just think he's had banger after banger after banger. Like, seriously.
You're referring to Praying with Anger and then
Wide
Awake, which
yeah,
I don't like. I've mentioned it before. I don't think M. Night even wants us to acknowledge those at all.
No, I mean, he
like,
talks about them. He doesn't talk about them with specifics, but he does say, like, I made these two movies that nobody saw, that nobody cares about, and then I made, because I think he had like a 3-picture deal with Miramax after,
was it Touchstone? Was it Touchstone?
I think it was Miramax.
Okay.
And because the whole idea was that he was essentially, they were going to pigeonhole his career and stop him from making movies because I don't think Wide Awake was received well. And so they were like, you can't go somewhere else, and you can't, direct here because you have this contract or something. And then he found like a loophole, and he was like, I'm going to write, I don't know all the specifics of this, but this is a really cool story. You should look it up. He was like, I'm going to write the best movie. The movie's so good that, like, they have to let me make it. And that was The Sixth Sense. So that literally, like, he was already fighting for his I guess, right to make movies that he wanted to. Also, that was essentially a battle that he had with Harvey Weinstein. And he said that, like, prepared him pretty well for the industry, just going toe-to-toe with that guy, like, immediately when he was really young. He's obviously said that working with him was awful.
Like most people.
He got out of it and made The Sixth Sense, and then kind of kicked off his, I guess, the golden age of his career, as most people consider it. I kind of consider the golden age of his career to be now, because he's just making everything he wants to make and paying for it himself. Yeah.
Or since we're doing this retrospective, I kind of consider, like, the golden age as, like, his entire filmography, like, from Sixth Sense all the way. Because even, like you said, like, stinkers like After Earth or even Last Airbender, like, that's a portion of his. That's a portion of his career.
It's a necessary evil. This movie and Last Airbender are necessary evils so that he could realize the movies he actually wants to make. Like, a lot of the time it takes this kind of consideration. I mean, like, I think I said this in the last one, but I think there's probably a lot of directors that are in the position that he was in with these right now, and they're just directing movies they don't really feel that passionate about. They're kind of just directors for hire. They haven't been able to get themselves out of it. And I think the way M. Night thinks about filmmaking is he's like, I just have to be making the films I want to make. I have to be doing it. Like, if I'm not making movies, I can't do anything, like, anything else. Like, so.
Well, it's kind of his career kind of mirrors like the actor Ke Huy Quan in a way. Like, he started out on Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, and then couldn't get get any offers or anything like that. But he still went back. He went back to school, got his film degree, and, like, obviously Shyamalan still had his film degree, but he still had to work, like, in film some way, whether it was, like, as a writer or producing and stuff like that, and lifting up other filmmakers.
Ke Huy Quan actually did a lot of work in between as a stunt person. So it was kind of, people weren't, I guess, they didn't know him anymore as an actor, but he was doing stunt work. And so that's almost akin to, I guess, M. Night producing, writing, making movies like this, where he's kind of in the background. Yeah.
But I mentioned that just because before he got, like, attached to After Earth, is that, like, he produced he wrote the story but also produced it as well. It was Devil from 2010. I just wanted to give it a quick shout out just because I've only seen it once, but I thought it was fine. Like, it's just a classic thriller, but you can definitely kind of, like, feel like that M. Night like flavor as well, but it's directed by John Eric Dowdle. He also directed the American version of Quarantine, and then after Devil he did As Above, So Below, which a lot of people like to swear that is probably one of the greater horror movies ever. But I remember like when Devil came out, M. Night wasn't necessarily anywhere in the marketing. Like you would always say like direct from the director of The Sixth Sense, but didn't mention his name. So I always thought that was like really interesting. And then like when I started hearing about the production of After Earth, like I just could faintly hear M. Night was like kind of was working on it, and my ears perked up a little bit. But I don't know. Yeah,
I think the reason they say from the director of The Sixth Sense is because people, unfortunately, people see M. Night Shyamalan's name and they're just like they don't, it's not a name that people find attractive all the time.
which is unfortunate.
Which is unfortunate because it's the coolest director name in my opinion.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
the most movie director name.
Also, like I
Movie
hate how
name.
people just mispronounce his last name on purpose.
Mhm.
It's so easy. It's so easy to say. And he even made his name easier to pronounce by naming himself M. Night.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like, come on.
And it's vaguely racist too.
Oh,
Like,
it's
it's
not
incredibly
even
racist,
vaguely.
actually.
It is racist.
Yeah.
It is racist. Even if you're not intending to be, you're doing something racist, and you shouldn't do that. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, that's really all that I have on like the production history on that. I just kind of found it interesting about like him coming in pretty late and kind of throwing his ego aside just because he still wants to be in the industry and work with Will Smith as well. Quick box office numbers: made $243 million at the box office on a $130 million budget. So adjusting for inflation, it probably did make its money back, even though people don't like this film. And then it was released May 31st, 2013, and was released in IMAX as well. Did you see this film in IMAX?
I never saw this in the theater. I actually only
really?
ever first saw this movie on HBO Max like
Oh,
2
really?
years ago. Yeah. Yeah, because I was at a time where I was like, I need to see all the Shyamalan movies. I need to watch
Right.
every single one. In fact, I didn't even see Wide Awake for the first time which is my least favorite movie he's made,
Mhm.
until last year on my birthday. I watched that on DVD. That was 2 days before I first saw Trap.
Oh, wow. It all comes together. But
God, so good. Anyway,
that kind of leads into we're 30 minutes in, just because we had a lot to talk about, like the early production. But like, what were your like initial reactions like the first time you saw
I
it?
was like, guys, this movie is fun. It's good. I think, again, the beginning, I was like, oh, okay, I see. This is kind of rough. And
Mhm.
then as it just kept going, I became more engrossed in the story and the father-son stuff. And like, it had enough. Like, it had just enough Shyamalan in it for me
Mhm.
to enjoy it. Even though I know it's a Will Smith vanity project. I know it's like Will Smith wants, like, the things people get mad at for Trap, they're like, oh, he just wants to advertise his daughter's music career.
Mhm.
It's like, After Earth is, I think, way, I guess, worse because, Jaden Smith, from my perspective, it feels like Will Smith just really, really wanted to make Jaden Smith work at this
Mhm.
point, at this time, and be like, no, he's trying to say, like, oh, he's deep and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, the things he says are deep. You'll see in interviews, he was trying to make Jaden Smith look like, put Jaden Smith on this unfair, like, pedestal. Not to say Jaden Smith isn't talented. It's just that
Mhm.
you're really, really trying to like make Jaden Smith the Lisan Al-Gaib or something. I don't know. It was
very
kinda,
heavy-handed.
It was very heavy-handed. There you go. That's a perfect way to describe it. And I think what M. Night did is like, and I mean, he said this all the time when his daughter said that, I want to be an artist. He was like, don't say that unless you mean it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Don't say that unless you mean it, because it's not for the faint of heart, really. Like,
Yeah.
and you have to take it seriously. Like, if you're not going to take it this seriously, don't do it. And I think
Mhm.
that's him. I think Trap is a much more, I guess, it's a much better exploration of similar things, because it's showing how he has to get over the psychological hurdle of like, I really don't, like, I want to support my daughter's dream. I really do.
Mhm.
But I really don't want, her to face the same pushback or rejection that I have.
Or the mistakes
But that's
Shyamalan
part of
made.
the experience, you know? And we're seeing it right now. The way that people are trashing Selika's acting in the movie. And whether or not you like her performance is whatever, but let's be honest, people are way, way too harsh about it because they don't like it and they don't like the movie. And it's like, just at least be respectful, you know? Like, just say you didn't like the performance.
Yeah, exactly. Like, leading it, like, I originally saw After Earth, like, in the theaters, because I remember, like I said, like, in the production history, I was very intrigued to see, like, what M. Night was going to do with, like, a science fiction type story, and to see him kind of, like, enter a project as kind of aiding someone else's project. I came out of that theater and I was like 2013, like obviously I wasn't as sharp with my film knowledge as I am now. Not saying that I'm like super sharp now, but I walked away from it just kind of like a little bit baffled, kind of like the same feeling that I had like with Last Airbender. And I was just like, I kind of had like a little bit of a like regretting a little bit. Like, I like M. Night Shyamalan, but should I? Like like he just made two. Well, not including Devil in that situation, because I really like that one. I was like, oh, is he cooking? But he comes out with After Earth, and I'm like, oh man, you're taking me on a roller coaster, M. Night. But yeah, so I thought it was pretty baffling. I didn't necessarily think Jaden was as bad as some people were saying, because I was trying to give him a little bit of credit. I don't think the dialogue necessarily helps him all that much, and he's doing as best he can with like.
I think it'd be better if he didn't have that accent. I really do.
Yeah,
I think he just struggles with the accent because it's such a bizarre accent.
Well, and also like going back to like the production history, like if this movie wasn't science fiction and it was actually about like a road trip, I think the accent actually would have made complete sense. And honestly, I think M. Night would have been more at home too, instead of like
the accent would have made sense if it was a road trip.
Well, no, like the.
I'm confused.
I don't know. It's like what, a southern accent or whatever. I think
almost. I think it's just supposed to sound like not like otherworldly in a way, like a weird kind of skewed human speak way of speaking English. Because I think they it's like, I guess at this point I wish they had just come up with a different language and have the characters speak that with subtitles, because that would make more sense than, I guess, the accents, because they're descended from the humans we know, and I guess it's just supposed to show that their civilization is different.
Well, because these humans escaped Earth, and Jaden's character has never like experienced Earth like Will's character, so it's like it's kind of like a Wall-E situation, where Jaden is so used to interacting with humans on this other planet, also colonized as well, which I think, especially in rewatch, I kind of wish that the movie dived a little bit more into like the colonization, just because, or like the humans trashed Earth, like kind of like what we're doing now, and we go to Nova Prime, not ours, and colonize that, and have to deal with like the creatures that are already there. You see what I'm saying? I kind of wish it just kind of glazes over that in a way, and it's
I guess it's more about that's actually sort of a thing where he likes to show you the present moment in the character's life, but give you all of the surrounding context that you can kind of populate through your own subconscious. It's kind of supposed to make the audience feel more involved in the story, but for, again, a big scale sci-fi film such as this, I think it actually does the opposite. And that's why I don't think he works with large scale, populist cinema, because it's like, and I think when people see these two movies, this one and Last Airbender, and they are like, oh, he's washed, he's a terrible director, actually. And I'm like, no, if you cannot see the stark difference between what kind of film these are and what kind of films he was making before, you have to be blind to see that clearly he was good at one thing and he tried something else and he wasn't very good at it, and then he goes back to doing that thing. It's incredibly obvious. I don't see how people could, they take these movies as like a one-size-fits-all. They're like, well, if he can't direct this well, then he must just suck and that he must have just gotten lucky with that other one. I'm like, no, it's very clearly two very different sensibilities that you need.
Right. And it's honestly like a habit that a lot of people have with criticizing filmmakers of color. Like, because it's always like whenever filmmakers of color kind of like expand their horizons and get out of like, well, for M. Night Shyamalan's case, the twist trope, then like when they try something different from that, then it's like this is terrible. I don't want to like take part in it, and it's disheartening. It's disheartening when I see that. But someone like Christopher Nolan or more recently Paul Thomas Anderson trying something different, everyone glazes them and lifts them up. So yeah. But I don't know.
In this case, I don't, and M. Night will say this too, I don't think he's very good at making these kinds of movies, but I also completely believe that you're right. I think that, yeah, there's a lot of like, no, you're supposed to do this, and this is all you're supposed to do. I think a lot of people get boxed in that way, especially in today's current culture where everything, like especially online, like, you know, you make a certain type of content, you just can't switch it up. It's like you have to have a niche or and nobody cares about your other parts of you. They only care about this one thing you do. So it can be hard when you're trying to show the full spectrum and depth of you as a person through your work, and then you can't do that because I feel like. And so that's why I feel like this is a necessary evil. It's like you have to see what experiment and see what doesn't work for you in order to find what really fulfills you the most.
Exactly. And I think I mentioned this on the last episode, and this is why it's so disheartening hearing like new creators that are afraid to post stuff online because it might be cringe because they're not used to doing stuff outside their comfort zone. Yeah. Like Shyamalan is the perfect example of that. Like he's trying stuff and he's like, "Oh, this isn't for me. I'm not going to do big budget science fiction movies again." So I tried it once. I'm not going to do it again. It's even though I do kind of, especially after this rewatch, I do kind of wish he would dive one more time into it because he's cooking a lot. Like during this movie, especially like you mentioned, Peyton, with the father-son dynamics, when you have really great science fiction that deal with father-son dynamics like Interstellar. Interstellar is big budget sci-fi that kind of dives into the same stuff that After Earth was trying to do, but just wasn't equipped at that moment in time. So just because he tries something, I hope that he can like revisit it again in the future.
Yeah. I don't know if I hope that. I just hope he does what he wants, you know? And even if I don't love all of it, if filmmakers are having fun making movies that work for a lot of people and for them, nobody's going to like everything. But I do find that this movie, it's weirdly like a little gem to me. Like I think it's just, I love the way that it contrasts because like I said, the beginning of the movie doesn't really work in terms of the aesthetics, but I love after they land on Earth, the contrast between the lushness and the green and the nature of Earth and the like computery science fiction, like techno industrial stuff on the ship and like everything. And I think the futuristic technology clashing with the lushness of the Earth is a nice juxtaposition, as well as the fact that Jaden's character is having to learn to, like, for example, when he encounters a creature, Cypher's telling him what to do, and Jaden's trained. He knows what to do. But he's struggling because he's scared. It's like that is a pretty good portrayal of like what it's like to be anxious about something. It's like intellectually you know what you're supposed to do, but your nervous system is not allowing you to behave in the logical way that you already understand what to do. So it's not because the character is stupid, it's because the character is scared. And that's interfering with their intellect. So it's very like, I guess, relatable in some moments.
Yeah, and like bringing up like the concept of fear, like that's why and Gary Whitta involved introduces like this creature called like the Ursa that's like trapped on like that ship, and like when they crash, it obviously like escapes, but the Ursa is basically feeds off of fear. And like, especially on rewatch, I think that's like it's a very interesting kind of like motif as well, to kind of like push the story along, just because Jaden has to erase his fear. But I honestly thought was a really great line from Will Smith is like when Jaden says when he's on the island that he's scared, and Will basically tells him to stop. Like, stop. He says, fear is what you're saying, Peyton. Fear is what controls you, but don't throw away danger. Danger is still something that you should look out for. Fear is the one that's going to stop you in your tracks. And I think that's like you said, just like a beautiful sentiment on just M. Night's career. It's like, and honestly, him kind of like talking directly to his daughters as well, where it's like, if they want to be like an artist, like, don't be afraid, but also be aware of
like danger is external, fear is internal. So you have control over fear, you don't have control over danger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well put. But I don't know. I think the creature is a little bit cliche, but I think all the stuff that powers that creature is really interesting. And I feel like not trying to glaze M. Night even more, I feel like that is M. Night cooking right there. Like, it's but
a creature that literally embodies the themes of the movie. I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
I guess
sorry.
Since we're on the topic of fear, I think one of the best parts of the film is the fact that, like I was talking about with the nature, I think this plays into the fear as well. It's the fact that the world itself is a very dangerous place, but it can also be very beautiful. And the fact that, when Cypher Rage tells the story about how he first realized that he could be fearless if he chose to, is when he sees how his own blood is like bubbling to the surface of some water when he's literally being drowned by the Ursa. He's like, he sees that and he thinks, oh, that's so pretty. And he kind of forgets about what could happen to him, and he kind of focuses on the present moment and what he likes and doesn't like about it. He's like, oh, that's so beautiful, but I don't want this pincer in my arm anymore. Like, he literally says it so matter of fact that he's like, I decided I didn't want that in there anymore. Takes it out. And so I think the movie's trying to find this blend of stoicism and emotion, because both are necessary.
Right.
Because how can you be fearless if you don't also feel love for something that you're having to have that courage for? Also, on top of that, we're seeing the blend of the techno-industrial with the nature as a reflection of that metaphor, and the fact that Jaden's character is learning to appreciate the beauty of the nature and the beauty of the world that he's walking through, this kind of desolate, dangerous earth that he's navigating, which can often be how Earth feels to a lot of us in real life. It's like, it's such a scary, dangerous place. Everything's out to get me. You can feel that anxiety, but there's also so much to appreciate, and there's so much beauty that you miss when you succumb to that fear. So, when he kind of, the moment where he does feel fearless is like the snow or the ash is falling in the volcano, and it's literally like rooting himself in the beauty of that is necessary to be fearless. You have to appreciate and admire life, even in the most dangerous situations, to center yourself. So the movie is strangely meditative and like therapeutic to me in those ways.
And I love it too that the first like creature that I'm gonna just that Katai like encounters like on Earth, like is a monkey, and and everyone likes to laugh at like that scene just because it's like, oh, why is Katai like afraid of a monkey, just because they're not, well, even though monkeys can be dangerous too.
Well, but that was
they are just like us. But it's
that was the creature I was referring to before when I said like he knows what to do and his fears just get in the way.
But Katai's also never seen any of these animals before. So if he's in
Yeah.
a foreign place that he's never set foot on,
Right.
and you see something that is foreign to you, then you're obviously gonna do a fight or flight response.
But also he has to have. It's because he fails to have trust in his father because of the divide between those two characters that is ultimately unspoken for most of the movie because of what happened to Katai's sister. Like, because he can't trust, he doesn't trust him enough to overcome the fear. Like, he literally says, like, don't move, don't do anything, you're gonna be fine. And Katai decides to, like, throw a rock at the monkey because he's like, even though he knows what he should be doing, his fear is just taking over his actions.
Right. But what I love also when they call back to that, like, and when the that bird saves him from the cold.
Yeah.
Like, you see Jaden become empathetic with, like, nature, and
Right.
it's a beautiful sentiment just because it's like James Gunn, not to bring up another filmmaker, but James Gunn has talked about multiple times why he likes to include animals and nature, just because they are the ones that show the most empathy throughout
Yes.
throughout nature and our world. And M. Night Shyamalan or Gary Whitta illustrated that perfectly, where it's, even though Jaden sees everything around him as scary, this bird, out of, like, the kindness of its heart, saves Jaden from freezing to death. And after that, he is defending, like, that bird's babies, like when those other, like, creatures are going, just trying to be like predators. I just think, I don't know, I just love that how, like, Jaden sees empathy from something else, and then he practices it himself. But
yeah, it's when you assume that everything different from you is dangerous or bad that you can ultimately hurt yourself. And you also don't. I think humans have a hard time as things progress accepting that we are animals as a part of nature. We're highly intelligent, but we are a part of nature. Like, we are animals,
Yeah. We all live on the same planet together.
So we do exist in this continuum, in this movement. We're not really meant to stay still. And even M. Night said this. He said this, like, literally in front of me in the same room. He said, he tells his kids that and his kids were in the audience when he said this. It was beautiful. He always tells his kids that you have two options. You either grow or you shrink. Then you have to pick. So you should pick to grow. There's no staying still. You're either growing or you're shrinking. And I think that I find that to be true. I feel like at any point in my life, I'm just always trying to fight the urge to shrink and grow instead.
And, like, Jaden, like you said, like, he shrinks a lot during this movie, like, when fear encompasses him, but it only happens at the end, where he conquers that fear in front of the Ursa and basically becomes, like, invisible to the danger. When it's absolutely beautiful, because it's like he conquers his fear, and then that's when he realizes that this creature that's been chasing him this entire time can't see him, because he's not afraid of it. And that's honestly so true to stuff that happens in my own life. Like, when I was a kid, I was always afraid to sleep with the closet door open, just because I was afraid of, like, monsters on the other side. But it's like, when you don't necessarily think about that, and you're not afraid of, like, of the unknown, then you can sleep, and you can go on with your life. But it's I don't know. I just thought it was a brilliant way to, like, illustrate Katai's Katai conquering his fear there. But but yeah, it's kind of been all over this place with this movie. Just kind of like, this movie is very all over the place. But is there anything that we missed throughout that you want to highlight?
No, I can't really think of anything significant that I want to highlight. I do want to highlight the fact that there's a jump scare in this movie with Zoe Kravitz, and I think that is very cool that he incorporated just a touch of horror into it.
Even though M. Night has never, like, he's not a complete horror director, but
no, I think The Sixth Sense is undoubtedly horror. I think that's it. The Sixth Sense, The Visit, Split.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm missing anything.
Maybe, would you put Trap in there as a horror? It's a thriller.
Slightly. It's a psychological thriller comedy movie to me.
It uses everything. It's all genres because you feel everything.
Almost. It's like kind of a musical if you think about it.
Yeah, kind of. It is a musical, but
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, on rewatch, I think I appreciate this movie more, and I think it's not just because we're doing the retrospective, and I feel like I'm personally glazing M. Night Shyamalan here because I'm like I loved Last Airbender.
I'm always doing that. Also, I do want to mention, since
Mhm.
this is the retrospective, this is the last time, as of now, that he collaborated with James Newton Howard as the composer.
Okay, I'm really glad that you mentioned that because we need to talk about the score because
I like the score a lot.
Man, I feel like that's
I
where
think
we
it's
differ.
the weakest. I think it's the weakest James Newton Howard score for
It
sure
really-
that he's worked on. But with M. Night. But I think I do enjoy, I guess, that one scene with when Katai ghosts at the end and he
Mhm.
is seeing the ash fall. The music swelling in that moment. It works for me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't really notice the score as much, and I guess I'm just kind of indifferent. to it.
I don't notice the score that much, and I feel like that's also a problem. And when I do notice it, it's distracting. I think that's what I noticed on this rewatch, and I never felt that with any James Newton Howard score when he does like an M. Night film.
No, he's
and-
usually one of the best parts.
Like Last Airbender, it was like the best part of Last Airbender.
By far
James-
the best part of Last Airbender. I mean, he's done great. The Village is like, oh my god, The Village is amazing. The score.
Yeah, but I don't know. I honestly had to look it up too because I was kind of curious, like who did the score. And then when I saw in the credits that it's James Newton Howard, I wouldn't like if that came up on Jeopardy, probably would have lost a whole bunch of money.
That's
But
fine.
I feel like that's really well. There's a lot of things wrong with this movie, but I feel like that's kind of like the thing that kind of hit me pretty hard is that the score just not being there for me. Not saying James Newton Howard is like a bad composer, but it's just,
No, I don't think
it's
anybody
just-
thinks that.
it felt odd to me, and I felt like
Yeah.
it just felt out of place.
Yeah,
Shout out to this movie for going for it. Just kind of
good
like
movie.
it goes back to like what I said from Signs is that M. Night, like when he's part of a project, he's just like Joaquin Phoenix. Like he may have like 1,000 strikeouts like in his career, but at
he'll
least
keep
he's
swinging.
swinging for the fence. So it's like
Yep.
it's
I
and when
actually I do plan
Mhm.
on getting a tattoo soonish that says "swing away" on it.
swing away. Yeah. I
It's words to live by, in my
yeah,
opinion.
for sure. And M. Night is definitely living by him for sure.
Yeah.
Throughout his career.
Felt wrong not to swing.
But any final thoughts on After Earth, Peyton?
Good movie. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a shirt that's from After Earth. It says "Danger is real, fear is a choice" on it.
Yeah. I would say this is an okay movie. There's portions of this movie where I'm like, is this a 5-star movie?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel and I was like, I can't do that. I think I might shake up the world a little bit.
Yeah, I
But
think some people think this is like the worst movie ever, and I think that's ridiculous. I just think there's too many redeeming qualities.
yeah, and I don't know. I'm happy M. Night Shyamalan was able to be a part of this, and also it definitely made me like I have like my opinions on Will Smith and his entire family, but I think that this might actually be one of the more important films for his family to be in, and
Yeah.
I don't know. After Earth, completely misunderstood, and and which makes sense with M. Night Shyamalan in this retrospective, the most misunderstood filmmaker that
Yeah.
we're covering. But yeah, that was After Earth. I think everyone should check it out at least once just to experience it.
Give it a go.
Yeah. But thank you, Peyton.
Of course.
This has been fun as always.
Yes, thank you for
Just
having me on so many of these.
Yeah, nerding out with M. Night Shyamalan. I don't think I can do it with anyone else except for you, but
Thank you.
Where can people find you online?
You can find me on TikTok at Peyton_pictures. You can find me on Letterboxd and Instagram at PeytonJB. And you can find me on my podcast, The Applebox Chronicles, every Monday on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube.
Definitely check out Peyton's podcast, The Applebox Chronicles. It's a daily listen for me. Well, most of my mutuals are daily listens if they have podcasts, just because I like to support.
That's so nice of you.
Support my friends, but it's definitely a great podcast. Great podcast to listen to. But yeah, all the links will be in the description box down below. I always end every podcast, if people aren't annoyed with me by the end of every podcast, you can follow me everywhere on social media with the username at Marley Loves Movies. Talk to me about After Earth, because this movie deserves to be talked about in every way, just because it's baffling, it's fascinating, and it's M. Night Shyamalan swinging away. I would love to continue that conversation on social media platforms like Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok as well, and YouTube. So Marley Loves Movies, and then you can subscribe to this podcast anywhere where you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and leave a comment on. I just realized you can leave comments on Spotify. Leave a comment. What kind of comment should they leave on Spotify for this movie?
Think you should comment your biggest fear.
Yes, I'm glad that I asked you that, Peyton. What's your biggest fear in the comments on Spotify? And yeah.
Mine is tape measures, in case anyone was wondering.
Tape what? Okay,
dude, they come back
I know we're
too
in
fast.
Outros. What?
They come back too fast. They're gonna hurt my finger. I'm scared.
Okay. Yeah. But
Barbarian
I was
messed me
thinking
up
of like
when
the tape
Justin Long had
measures.
the tape measure. I was like, this is getting a little too real. A little too real for me.
Yeah. I was thinking more of the tape measure that don't spring back, like
the ones that spring back. It's terrifying.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good.
I feel like I have to like drop it before it comes fully back.
I feel like that
scary.
fear was born from
kickback.
Final Destination.
I haven't even seen it. So
Okay.
I mean, I've seen the first one, I've seen the newest one, but I haven't seen any of the other ones. So really, it's just born from me being like messed up, I guess. I don't know.
Well, no, there's no tape measure death, but I feel like.
Oh, it's like
fear
Final
like that-
Destination-esque.
Yeah, Final Destination.
I feel that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That could.
I don't-
Hey, if anyone is making a Final Destination movie and that's in it, I'm just going to assume you plagiarized from this.
Yeah,
So I'm going to need
exactly.
credit. Okay.
Yeah. So credit Peyton and me as well. Look, I don't need any credit.
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
need
you
any
said,
credit.
but you made the comment, so yeah.
Yeah. What's my biggest fear? That there won't be any more movies. I think that's my biggest fear.
Yeah, AI in movies.
Yeah, exactly. Artificial intelligence. That's my great.
I mean, shit, that's pretty valid. All right.
Yeah, but yeah. Let us know your greatest fear in the comments down below. Next week on the M. Night Shyamalan retrospective series is Night Shyamalan's The Visit. This is M. Night. Basically, well, we'll get into it. We'll get into it on the episode, but this is a new era. Like we've had multiple eras throughout this retrospective. We had him like at the top of his game. We have like the Last Airbender and After Earth
This is
era.
the last act.
Yeah,
of
this
his
is.
career.
Well, I don't want to say last act.
Oh yeah,
This
the
is,
current act.
Yeah.
Sorry, the start of the current era. I'm thinking of 3-act structure.
Yeah.
You know,
I know what you meant, but I'm just like, and like still make movies. That's all
make
we
movies
ask.
forever until you're
Yeah.
just
Until you're
till the end of
90.
his days.
Until you're 90. But yeah, but like always, my name's Marley Silverbrand,
And I'm Peyton.
and we'll see you next time. Let's get back to the movies.